Good morning, everyone, and welcome to my end of April, very beginning of May garden update. For those of you who are new to the channel, I am gardening in Midwestern Ohio in Zone 6A. And as referenced, my last spring frost date is right around about May 10th to May 15th. Today, I wanted to share with you all what is happening in the garden right now, and also a few updates on some of the projects I've been working on. So what is actually planted and growing in the garden right now? The Ohio weather, as is the norm, can't decide what it wants to do. We were cold, we were hot, we were wet, we were dry, and I think the plants and everybody are a little confused. Leafy greens are doing beautifully. Up in the front, I've got some spinach and one of my all-time favorite lettuces. This is red velvet lettuce and also rhodos endive. And on the other side, some Amico Chinese cabbage starts and rainbow chard in the back. In the next raised bed, I have my earliest carrot planting sown on March 27th. In this corner is one of my completed spring projects. I'm really glad this is done. I expanded the area of the garden fence. This existing bed last year was outside of the fence, and I had issues with rabbits nibbling off the plants and my chickens getting in here and scratching plants up. So I swung the fencing out, and then I added 2 additional new strawberry beds in this area. I've also got more strawberries back on the hugelkultur bed, which I'll show you in a minute. And then I'm still working on mulching all of my walkways here with wood chips. This is where the old strawberry bed was, but those plants were getting old, they were slowing down on productivity. So last year, I ripped this out and I had my cucumbers planted in here. Planted a cover crop with hairy vetch last fall, and as soon as the cover crop is done, I will be working on building a new bed in this area. This is a newer garden space that I completed last spring, and my intent when I built this was for this to become my medicinal herb garden area. I didn't have a lot of the plants that I wanted ready last spring, so I'm working on growing and sourcing those this spring. But you can see in here a few assorted herb and fruiting plants that I was able to add last year. Catnip and feverfew, chives and yarrow, strawberry, raspberry, and wild thyme as a ground cover. I love this plant as a ground cover, and so do the bees. Mandarina lemon balm, Jian gooseberry, Grower's Friend sage, and limoncello lemon balm. And if you've watched any of my other videos, you may have seen me mention what a bad idea it is to leave soil bare and uncovered. I've discovered yet another reason that that's a bad idea, and that is if you have kids who happen to view areas of bare, loose dirt as the perfect opportunity to set up a toy construction site, that is what will happen. So right now we've got this dump truck working on moving loads of dirt, and I need to get this planted very soon so that the construction activity will cease. I'll back out into the main garden. In this bed, I'm trying to root my elderberry cuttings. I pruned the blackberries way back early this spring. And in this bed, I've got a mix of hairy vetch cover crop, some blush butter Koss lettuce and winter density lettuce, bachelor's buttons, and some green beauty snow peas just starting to take off. In a video from last fall, I promised an update on overwintered potato plantings, and I don't have anything super exciting to report yet, except for this planting that was in the raised bed. I actually did have a little growth popping up above the ground. We got really cold and it froze that tiny bit of growth off, but at least I know there's something under there and that they're growing, so I fully expect those to come back. Now, no signs of life yet from my other 2 test plantings. I have some big concerns back there that voles may have gotten into the potatoes underground. Fingers crossed that we see some signs of life soon. And then back behind me is the bed where I am doing my carrot planting test. I'm testing out 8 different methods of planting carrot seeds, and I planted or started sprouting seeds on April 4th. And now, just shy of a month later, all 8 tests and the control plantings are up. No surprise, the pre-germed seeds on a paper towel were the very first to sprout up within a week of planting. But the germination was spotty. By the 15th, the control group and the seeds covered with the mini greenhouses or cloches had sprouted. By the 16th, the seeds covered with a board were barely up, and the seed sowed with sand had germinated. By the 18th, the seeds covered with the burlap and the cardboard had sprouted. And last to join the party on the 22nd was the do-it-yourself seed tape and the seeds sown in a cornstarch gel mixture. More updates to come on that test as the season progresses. Next, let's check out what's planted in the back of the garden. But first, I'd like to take a minute to thank the sponsor of today's video, Hisea. A reliable pair of garden work boots is a must-have for me. Last fall, I tried out my first pair of Hisea boots, a pair of ankle-height garden boots, and I love them so much that I've been getting Hiseas for everyone in my family, including this new pair of incredibly stylish chicken boots for myself. Hisea offers a 100-year guarantee on their products, and their boots are 100% waterproof, important especially for mud season in the garden. But they have breathable mesh lining that wicks moisture and sweat, so my feet don't end up feeling all nasty after a long day of work. They're comfort rated from 14 degrees Fahrenheit to 86 degrees Fahrenheit, so I can wear these pretty much year-round. And my favorite part, they're easy to slip on and off, flexible and extremely comfortable, and easy to clean off just by spraying them down with a garden hose. I also wanted to let you all know about an exciting opportunity that is going on at Hisea right now. They are recruiting for product testers. It's an opportunity to test out new Hisea products for free, provide valuable feedback, and get exclusive discounts. And 50 testers are selected each month. Now, currently, this opportunity is available to US residents only, but Hisea is hoping to include other regions soon. To sign up, click on the link in the video description below and use the invitation code Jenna. You can also use the code Jenna to get 20% off Hisea products from now until May 18th. If you use the code after the 18th, you can still get a 15% discount. So if you are in need of some new gardening boots, head over to Hisea now and check out the selection. I highly recommend the chicken print. Now, back to the garden. First, I've got my broccoli planting, transplanted mid-March, and this is covered with the insect netting that I rely on to keep cabbage moths at bay. Though, knock on wood, I've not seen that many of them yet this spring. A planting of parsley, celery, and celeriac that just went in on April 20th. Some Cossack kohlrabi, direct sown April 7th. And brilliant celeriac, one of my favorites here. Under this netting, my cauliflower planting, and these are struggling a little with the weather extremes we've been having. Baltic rose potatoes here, planted March 30th and just starting to sprout. Garlic is up and doing pretty well. It's one crop that does not seem to be fazed by the crazy weather we've been having. And I've got the small garlic planting here and a larger planting at my mom and dad's. If you recall from last fall, I was testing out the difference between soaking and not soaking garlic bulbs. The idea being that you do a soak in a sterilizing, then fertilizing solution, and then plant the bulbs. And it's supposed to help with disease resistance and increasing yields. So I won't have a final read on this till harvest time, but as of right now, there's really been no difference in terms of how quickly the plants emerged or how the plants look or plant health or anything that I can see at this point. But when I dig these, I will provide a final update. Frontier spinach transplanted late March, and volunteer chamomile, and some chalupa lettuce started from seed on April 7th. A small patch of winter rye cover crop, and more construction equipment. I have carrots that were started on March 27th, along with plenty of volunteer calendula. And over here, some beets seeded on April 4th, just starting to pop up. Various cover crops in these two rows. These rows will be used for warm season plantings. And then up front, I've got a few more spinach transplants and some radishes sown on March 20th. My consort black currant is blooming. And burgundy sprouting broccoli transplants looking good. This variety is always reliable for me. More spinach and rye over here. I'm having a heck of a time with moles tunneling under that bed. And then I just got some kale transplants in over here. I've got some different winter sowings going on this year. Last year I did a test with cold hardy vegetables, and my conclusion was that winter sowing was not my preferred way to do those. So this year I thought I would test it out with some herbs, specifically those that needed some type of cold stratification. The majority of these have germinated, and I've actually already transplanted my chamomile and poppies into the garden. Chamomile is an excellent candidate for winter sowing, by the way. And then still in my milk jugs, I have comfrey, rue, soapwort, valerian. Unfortunately, none of my Italian parsley has come up yet. None of the giant Solomon seal has germinated yet. Marshmallow, white alyssum. Now this was some old seed and I've only got one tiny little seedling in there. And then skullcap. So I'm gonna wait for these to get a little bit bigger before transplanting. And then many of these will probably go in my new medicinal garden area. I am slowly but surely working on adding more fruit tree plantings. And I planted an apricot, a necticot, and 2 flat wonderful peach trees two springs ago, using a method that I detailed in one of my videos. I've had a lot of questions about how the trees that I planted were doing, and I'm very proud of the peaches. These trees are doing well, and I even had a few blossoms on them early this spring. But sadly, this is what happens when you do not protect your trees from deer, or in my case, from four-wheelers. So we're surrounded by woods. We have deer come through here all the time. We can see them from the back room. I stupidly did not put up any kind of deer protection or deterrent around these trees, and deer will happily make a winter meal out of all of the tender young bark on a young tree like this. So the deer came through and totally topped this tree. I also had rabbit and vole feeding on the base. They basically completely killed this one. I've got a little bit of new growth sprouting up from the base, but I'm not sure. I think that's below the graft line, so that's probably not going to grow back true to type. The other thing that happened, which I just found out thanks to my son tattling on his father, they were running through here with four-wheelers, and apparently my husband ran over these with the four-wheelers. So another reason to put up protection around your tender young trees. So I'm gonna work really hard on trying to salvage this guy. He really wants to survive, and I might just have to get a replacement for my other sad little tree over here. But had those unfortunate incidences not occurred, I'm sure that these would look as healthy and happy as the peach trees up front. Back in this lovely lush growth of rye, this was a new bed that I started last year. My intent is to go in here this year with my sweet corn planting, but I've got a few other things tucked in here as well. First, I've got a couple of my apple trees, and these were planted to test cedar apple rust resistance. I have extremely high cedar apple rust pressure here because of all the cedar trees. And I planted two supposedly resistant varieties, Triumph and Liberty. And my Liberty trees are definitely faring the best. I've already lost one of the Triumph trees. This is also where I have some of my overwintered potato plantings. And I've got some garlic in here as well, which I just realized I forgot to fertilize. So so I need to get that done soon. But all this rye will get cut down as soon as it starts putting on seed heads, and this will be ready for planting probably by the middle to end of May with sweet corn. I finally got my hugelkultur bed all planted with fruit plants. I have a mix of gooseberries, haskaps, strawberries, and raspberries. And then I had grand plans for this area by the fence. I planted this in onions and some climbing peas. And I thought, oh, this is gonna be perfect. These peas are gonna climb up this fence and be lovely. And we love shell peas. Two plantings and some little critter, I'm not sure what yet. I don't know if it was voles or chipmunks or squirrels, came through and dug up every single seed. I also had trouble both with moles tunneling under my onion plantings, and I'm not sure if it was birds or again squirrels or chipmunks. Somebody was pulling the onion plants out of the ground after I planted them. So I put these little pinwheels in, hoping to scare off whoever was doing this mischief. They seem to have stopped. Whoever was bothering the onions did not stop the pea thieves. I even used like one of those, I think it was fox urine scent repellents for small animals over here. Nothing, whatever it was, it did not faze them at all. So I'm really brokenhearted about the peas. I have a few other plantings here. I have some at mom and dad's that are doing well, but not enough, not as many as we would easily go through in a season. So I'm gonna try again for a fall planting. It's a little late here to be trying to plant in the spring. It typically gets too hot and they don't do well. So I'm just gonna have to figure out the guilty party and have a better game plan in place for next spring. But such is gardening. And over here, my other slightly older hugelkultur bed, a compelling argument for why free-range chickens are not always a good idea. We have a little group of younger hens that like to escape from their enclosure, and this hugelkultur bed is one of their absolutely favorite spots to hang out. And they have absolutely destroyed this thing. I had this area all nice and neat. It was in a nice tidy mound with a lot of this residue from last year's garden crops just kind of piled on top to work both to protect the soil and provide organic matter as it broke down. And they just got in here and just scratched up and threw everything everywhere. So this is gonna require a little work on my part to get basically everything moved up to where it's supposed to be. And then I will either have to fence this in or fix the chicken run situation. I'm not sure at this point which is a more difficult task to tackle. The other thing I wanted to show you in here, just because I've been absolutely blown away by this, is this grape that will not die. So this is a Concord grape in front of me. I planted this in here and we never got the trellis put up. So I decided I just didn't want to deal with it. I don't know why I didn't just dig it up and move it. And for 2 years, I had black landscape fabric barrier over top of this. I was just trying to kill off all the weeds and everything in this area. 2 years go by. I pull the barrier off. I didn't get back around to working in this area for a while. I come back, it's like mid-spring, I think, and this thing is sprouting up new growth. That was last spring, and you can see now it's still pushing out buds. It just really has a will to live. So I'm not gonna deny it that. I'm going to get a trellis put up here for it to properly grow on, but I was just really impressed that that plant could make it through 2 years of suffocation and sprout back out and be healthy. And over here, I've got my other grapevine that did have a trellis. My husband just rigged this up with the cattle panel because it's what we had on hand. And over at my mom and dad's, the big focus so far this spring has been getting in perennial plantings. So I spent some time a couple weeks ago planting some new hardy almond trees. I have a gomi bush that went in over there, a couple of cornelian cherries, and I still have quite a few plants to put in. We're also working on planting more windbreaks, but the big focus is on planting trees and shrubs that will provide edible fruit or nuts. It's something I wish I would have focused on in the beginning of my gardening journey, but didn't. So now I'm trying to make up for lost time. And because I'm quickly approaching my frost-free date, I've got plenty of starts. Some in the greenhouse, and most still indoors under lights. All of my tomatoes, eggplants, peppers, and such. I'll start hardening these off soon so that they're ready for planting after the middle of May. So that covers most of what is happening in my garden right now, and I'd love to hear from you. Drop a line in the comments below and let me know what is going on in your garden right now. And if you enjoyed today's garden update, please consider subscribing to my channel, Growfully with Jenna. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.